Okay, so I am going to be honest with you, I am beyond disquiet. So I wanted to share with you what it was like to work with over 11s in Keighley before the public got to grips with what CSE was and how widespread it was and what it actually meant for children to be subject to kind of industrialised sexual exploitation. So while I was working in Keighley, this was just about institutional priorities. We were told that those teams, their first priority should be preventing the use of out-of-authority placements, which were very, very expensive, preventing the use of proceedings. This was the team when nobody went to court because your job was to wash your hands of these children. And it took a while for my eyes to kind of get used to the landscape and to realise what I was walking through. And the crunch for me came... Sorry, this is really difficult. It came quite late on. Because I had spent quite a long time just going, well, you knew the system was bad, but your job is to make the best of it. And then I had a girl, and you know this is really bad, like, I'm so traumatised by this that I'm not sure if she was one girl or two different girls that have merged in my head. Like, really, trauma might have compressed those memories together. So this is not reliable. Although I think that trauma response should tell you about how difficult it was. And it was in the back end of working there, and she had gone missing. And she had been found naked in a place called Manningham in Bradford, in the street, and she was only, I don't think she was even 13. And there was nobody at the hospital. Nobody gave a fuck. And when duty told me they'd found her, they expected me to leave it till Monday. And I remember thinking, with this one, because it was so bad, because she was so young, the press will get hold of it. And so I thought that that was going to be, because I had worked with other issues where that had been an issue. And then I realised not only was the press not going to get hold of it, that nobody gave a fuck. And because this girl had no other resources in her life, she didn't have a family who were going to turn up, she didn't have a school that were going to give a shit, she had nothing. And she had been raped about 40 times while she'd been held in a room. And I sat in my manager's office and I used the word rape. And my manager said that my language was strong. I said, I don't think it fucking is. And the problem was that it took a while to realise, because you were only seeing snippets of these girls' lives, you were only seeing what they told you, you weren't, you know, they had multiple things going on that you were trying to figure out what was going on here, because occasionally you'd get a girl, well, she just had an Asian boyfriend and people didn't want her to see this Asian boyfriend, and that wasn't what this was. And there was a lot of that going on. But it took a while to realise that what you were in the middle of was industrialised child sexual exploitation. And that you were literally the place where everybody was washing their hands of this. This took way till the back end. I didn't realise properly until way late on. And I had a better picture of it than most. And I watched a bit of a drama with Maxine Peake in it. And I didn't watch it all because I couldn't. But she was trying to say to this woman, why can't you see that this is a child? And people couldn't see. People just couldn't see. They had these girls reduced to objects, so anything could happen and nobody could see. And it wasn't that they didn't want to see, it wasn't there was a cover-up, there wasn't a conspiracy, there weren't evil people wandering around trying to cause harm to these girls. For 1,000,001 reasons. And this is the landscape that you walk through, like the landscape where people just couldn't or wouldn't see. And it was in front of them. And you kind of understood a little bit because it had taken you a while to fully grasp the structure of this. And so it's actually that and the administrative processes that left me quite, it's taken me a long time to process this, and it's, finding out that nobody knew what child protection did above where we were, finding out that Labour didn't know what child protection was, finding out that policymakers don't routinely think about it, finding out that the LSE have no way of even seeing these systems. This has all been like a really complicated journey, and why I've gone to so much effort, really. But the thing that I find very difficult is when you're looking in the face of harm and other people can't see. So I'll tell you what I can see with trans rights activists at the moment. I can see a lot of transsexual women that I call women just routinely. In fact, I call Miranda Yardley a woman all the time, and she says she fucking bothers me. She's just like, no, I'm not. But I do. I see lots of transsexual women that I know as women. But I'm also watching some very dangerous men. Men like Ros Cavini and Tannis Wood and Jess Bradley and Aimee Challoner. And these men are very, very mentally disturbed, and they are part of an active and concerted campaign to get rid of safeguarding. And they are presenting it as inclusivity, and they are demanding that we tell children that their boundaries no longer apply, that children hand their perception to adults, that adults who are obsessed with sex should have access to children whenever they want them, that safeguarding is no bigotry, and they have managed to, Aimee, with the help of his father, by the way. There are many things here where Aimee has worked with his father in the last few years. I'm not going to comment, but some stuff's come to light today that's fucking dodgy. And what you've got is a concerted effort to use social media to undo safeguarding to gain access to children. And I'm going to be clear, mermaids are very, very suspect. And these people are flying more red flags than bunting, but because they are reduced to objects in political identities and everybody wants to feel good about being inclusive, they are trying to wave through the dismantling of our child protection systems and the undermining of safeguarding. And these men who are very dangerous, Jess Bradley is a very dangerous, disturbed male. Ros Cavini is an abusive and dangerous male. Aimee Challoner. And they're not dangerous and abusive because they're trans. They're dangerous and abusive because they're mentally disordered, and their behaviour indicates they pose significant risk to children and women. And I'm watching it, and I'm watching lesbians being sexually abused openly. You try with some of those accounts on Twitter to explain to those men that they're not lesbians, and then you put yourself in the shoes of young lesbians. And next month, a lot of undergraduates are going to start at university, and a lot of them are going to be young lesbians looking for solidarity and to explore their sexuality, and what they're going to find is sexual harassment and coercion. And that just, if that was my fucking daughter, if my daughter was being subject to the coercion that you see in the Riley Dennis videos, I would be broken by it. And we're seeing actual sexually abusive males, very specifically sexually abusive males, demanding access to children and demanding the end of safeguarding. And because political parties like Labour and the Green Party don't know anything about safeguarding and they don't know about these systems, they're actively facilitating it, and they're actively facilitating women being targeted. I'm not really worried. I know that someone, I've had more fucking activists come after me than you can count on dinners. I'm not even fucking remotely scared. I live in a part of the world where if you managed to get anywhere near me, there'd be 70 million people in the town where I lived who'd have a full description of you, and I'd have you on the local chat site and have discussed whether I was shagging you before you'd killed. Do you know what I mean? Like, I live in a very small place where that's not going to happen. But I'm witnessing that on a grand scale, and I'm witnessing Stonewall and mermaids with significant institutional support push abusive males like Jess Bradley, males where there are serious problems like Aimee Challoner, to demand access to vulnerable groups and children. And I know exactly what that fucking is. And I'm not going to ignore it, and I'm not going to pretend. And the only thing to do in this situation is to shout loudly that that's what it is. Now, with narcissists, it's always, I identify as, and let's die on the hill of my identity, and then they are the opposite. Trans is a mirror for these people. You have to take everything that they say and understand that the opposite is true. Now, they're demanding that gender non-conforming children be taken out of safeguarding. and be groomed. And I know exactly what that is too. I know what grooming looks like, and I know what this is. And it's a very strange thing to see this be done on a national scale, and to see our political machinery at a period in time where they should be reviewing the child abuse inquiry and Jimmy fucking Saville. And they should be looking at what's in plain sight, and this is happening in plain sight. So I am telling you, and I am saying this second, we are in the middle of a concerted campaign with significant institutional backup, significant funding, using primarily social media and the internet to try and systematically undermine safeguarding, to get very, very abusive and dangerous males to get access to children. And these people are being sent into our schools, and they're getting funding for, you know, the All Sorts pack is dangerous as fuck. All the accusations that were levelled at Transgender Trend, they apply to All Sorts and more. That's textbook grooming. And this is working to an extent. It's more effective than it would have been 10 years ago, because everything's so fractured and broken by austerity that a lot of young professionals aren't as aware as the older professionals are of these things. And, you know, but this is happening in front of us, and I refuse to call it anything but it is. And if you think that conflating trans rights with trying to get access to children so they can be harmed is helping trans people, I can tell you something, that's not true. Now, it was always inevitable that with the end of the gender binary, because, you know, gender dysphoria exists. People with gender dysphoria need protection under the law because society is shit. I have not budged an inch on that in 15 years. I have not budged an inch on that. But that's not what this is. This is abusive masculinity trying to get access to children and women so that they can cause harm. This is openly done sexual abuse of lesbians. This is open attempts to get access to children. And this is dangerous people. And they are being actively facilitated. So I'm getting that off my chest because I'm getting more and more shocked the more details that are coming out about Aimee and David Challoner, where there is no evidence of a rift between those two at all in the years after his offence. Not a bit of it. In fact, quite the fucking opposite. And the Green Party better be shitting themselves right now, and so do Labour, because Labour have elevated a bunch of dangerous, abusive males and put them in women's positions. And they've done it to hide from the fact that they are threatened by the existence of these systems. So I am calling that what it is right now. And I will not be retracting it, and I will not move it. And as for the dodgy behaviour of that YouTube video to Caroline Lucas, the way that these people are using the internet is disturbing. Turf blocker is disturbing. This whole thing is disturbing. And I am not pretending it's normal, and I am not pretending that what is happening in front of me is not. I recognise abusive males when they are trying to target and get access to women and children. And I am trained to do so, and I am never, ever, ever in my life going to pretend that what's in front of me isn't what it is.